Title suggestion: the mathematical truth about success that the I Ching figured out 3,000 years ago. In 1701, the great mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, the man who co-invented calculus, sat in his study in Hanover, staring at a series of broken and unbroken lines sent to him by a Jesuit priest in China. Leibniz realized, with a shock that would eventually change the world, that these symbols, written 3,000 years before his birth, were the first binary code in human history. The I Ching, or the Book of Changes, was not a collection of superstitions or mystical fortunes. It was a sophisticated mathematical model of psychological and social entropy. It was a computer program for the human soul, designed to calculate the exact probability of success or failure based on the invisible cycles of the universe. Today, we use ones and zeros to build artificial intelligence. The ancients used them to navigate the collapse of empires. You are currently making decisions based on the assumption that the world is a straight line. The I Ching is here to tell you that you are wrong. And that error is why you feel like you are fighting against the current of your own life. 3,000 years ago, the Shang dynasty was rotting from within. King Zhou of Shang was a tyrant of legendary cruelty, a man who found sport in the suffering of his subjects. Among his captives was a man named King Wen, the head of the Zhou state. For 7 years, Wen was imprisoned in a place called Yoli. He didn't have an army. He didn't have his wealth. He didn't even have his freedom. What he had was time, and he had an observation. He watched the way the shadows moved across his cell. He watched the seasons turn through the bars. He realized that the tyrant's power was not a static thing, but a wave that had already peaked and was beginning to crash. In that darkness, he took the ancient 8 trigrams of Fu Shi and expanded them into 64 hexagrams. He wrote the judgments. He mapped the DNA of change itself. He wasn't writing a book of magic. He was writing a manual for the inevitable revolution. When he was finally released, the wisdom he cultivated in that cell allowed his son to overthrow the Shang and establish the longest-lasting dynasty in Chinese history. The stakes for King Wen were life and death. The stakes for you may feel different, but the mechanics are identical. We live in an era of disruption, a word we use to pretend we understand why things fall apart. We see a company like Kodak dominate for a century and vanish in a decade. We see a leader rise to the top of their field only to be undone by a single, predictable character flaw. We see our own lives oscillate between periods of frantic growth and crushing stagnation. We call this luck or market forces. King Wen called it Gua, the hexagrams. He understood that nothing is permanent except the process of transition. If you are at the top, the seeds of your fall have already been planted. If you are at the bottom, the path to the top is already opening, provided you know how to step onto it. Consider the modern pivot. When Netflix shifted from mailing DVDs to streaming video, they were practicing the principle of hexagram 49 revolution. They didn't wait for the old system to die. They recognized the season had changed and shed their skin before the winter arrived. Most people wait until they are freezing to look for a coat. The strategist buys the coat in the heat of midsummer. In this episode, we are exploring the 30-second hexagram, Hung, the hexagram of duration. It is the secret of how to remain consistent in a world that refuses to stand still. Did you know that the most successful hedge fund in history, Renaissance Technologies, doesn't hire economists? They hire mathematicians and code breakers. They are looking for the same patterns King Wen was looking for in his cell. They are looking for the noise that is actually a signal. Let us look at the source text for hexagram 32. The text reads, duration, success, no blame, perseverance furthers. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. What does this actually mean in the cold light of the 21st century? Most people hear the word duration and they think of stasis. They think of holding on. They think of a mountain. But the I Ching is far more subtle. The structure of this hexagram is thunder over wind. Think about that image. Thunder is a sudden, powerful shock. Wind is a persistent, flexible force. Neither of them is a still. Duration is not the absence of movement. It is the consistency of the direction of movement. In plain language, duration is the art of staying the same by constantly changing. Look at a company like Toyota. For decades, they have dominated the automotive industry. How? Not by keeping their cars the same. They use Kaizen, continuous improvement. Thousands of tiny changes every single day. The duration is their commitment to quality. The change is the method. If they had remained static, they would be a museum piece. Because they changed every day, they stayed the same leader. The actionable principle is this. True consistency requires constant internal adjustment to external flux. If you try to be consistent by being rigid, you will snap like a dry branch in a storm. To endure, you must be like the wind, moving, shifting, yet always blowing toward the same horizon. Now, we look at the next teaching. Hexagram 24, Fu. The return. The text says, return, success, going out and coming in without error. Friends come without blame. To and fro goes the way. On the seventh day comes return. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. This is the teaching of the turning point. In the ancient calendar, this was the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. But the I Ching doesn't see the winter solstice as an ending. It sees it as the moment of return. The light is at its absolute weakest, but that is exactly when it begins to grow again. Consider the career of Steve Jobs. In 1985, he was cast out of the company he founded. It was his winter. He was in the abysmal, but he didn't try to force his way back in immediately. He went out. He founded Next. He bought Pixar. He learned. He evolved. He waited for his seventh day. When he returned to Apple in 1997, he didn't return as the same brash young man. He returned with the wisdom of the return. He understood the cycle. The actionable principle is this. The moment of your greatest defeat is the precise moment your victory begins, but only if you stop fighting the darkness and start preparing for the dawn. Many of you are in a winter right now, a failed business, a broken relationship, a stagnant career. You are panicking because you think the darkness is permanent. The I Ching tells you it is merely a phase of the cycle. Stop panicking. Start observing. You are not the same person who started watching this video. Biologically, you are in a state of constant return. Your skin, your blood, your stomach lining, they are all cycling. If your body stopped returning, you would die. Why do you expect your career or your mind to be any different? We move to the third teaching. Hexagram 1, Qian, the creative. Specifically, the first line. The text reads, Hidden Dragon. Do not act. This is the most difficult lesson for the modern mind. We are told to hustle, to grind, to make it happen. We are told that if we aren't visible, we don't exist. The I Ching says that the most powerful state of the creative is when it is hidden. This is the dragon at the bottom of the lake. It has all the power in the world, but it knows the time is not right. If it surfaces too early, it will be captured or killed. Think about the development of large language models. For decades, researchers worked in the AI winter. They were hidden dragons. They didn't have the computing power. They didn't have the data. If they had tried to launch ChatGPT in 2005, it would have been a laughingstock. They waited. They stayed in the depths. They gathered strength. When the time of the hexagram changed, the dragon surfaced, and it changed the world overnight. The actionable principle is this. Unapplied power is not wasted power. It is stored potential that grows in value until the window of opportunity opens. Are you acting just to feel busy? Or are you waiting for the moment when your action will have the maximum impact? Most of you are wasting your fire on damp wood. Wait for the drought. In the year 2024, the average human attention span dropped to 8 seconds. That is shorter than a goldfish. If you can master the hidden dragon principle, the ability to work in silence without seeking validation, You will have a competitive advantage that no algorithm can match. You are not behind. You are underground. There is a difference. The fourth teaching. Hexagram 60, Jia. Limitation. The text reads, limitation. Success. Galling limitation must not be persevered in. Think about a river. What gives a river its power? Its banks. If you remove the banks, the river becomes a swamp. It loses its depth. It loses its direction. It loses its force. Limitation is what creates focus. But the I Ching adds a warning. Galling limitation must not be persevered in. This means that while constraints are necessary, too much constraint will stifle the soul. Modern life is a swamp. We have infinite choices, infinite information, infinite distractions. We have no banks. We are spread thin across 1,000 interests and 10,000 notifications. We wonder why we have no flow. It's because we refuse to limit ourselves. Look at the most successful people in any field. They are often the most limited. They say no to almost everything so they can say yes to the one thing that matters. Buffett doesn't have a Bloomberg terminal. He doesn't have a smartphone. He has a pile of reports and a quiet room. He has created banks for his mind. The actionable principle is this. Your potential is defined not by what you can do, but by what you refuse to do. If you are feeling overwhelmed, it is not because you have too much to do. It is because you haven't decided what not to do. You are a river without banks. You are becoming a swamp. Build your limitations this week, and you will find your power. We have walked through the theory. Now, we must walk through the practice. The I Ching is not a book to be read. It is a book to be lived. If you leave this video with only interesting facts, I have failed you, and you have failed the sage. Here are 3 concrete things you must do this week to align your life with the cycles of change. First, the binary audit. The I Ching is built on the interaction of yin and yang, dark and light, receptive and creative. Most of your stress comes from gray space, decisions that are half made, tasks that are half done, relationships that are it's complicated. This week, look at your 3 biggest stressors. For each one, force a binary. Is it a yes or a no? Is it an in or an out? If it's a maybe, treat it as a no until it becomes a yes. Clear the gray space. Return to the ones and zeros of your life. You will find that when you collapse the maybe, your energy returns instantly. This is the principle of Hexagram 43, Gui, resolution. Do not allow the broken lines of your life to clutter the solid lines. Second, the seed time ratio. We are obsessed with harvesting. We want the result now. But every hexagram teaches us that there is a time for sowing and a time for reaping. This week, identify one area where you are trying to force a harvest. Maybe it's a new business that isn't profitable yet. Maybe it's a skill you've only been practicing for a month. Stop looking for the fruit. Spend this week focusing entirely on the seed time. If you are in a hidden dragon phase, stop trying to surface. Measure your success this week by your silence and your preparation, not by your visibility. If you can go 5 days without checking your stats or seeking external validation for your work, you have mastered the first line of the creative. Third, the adaptive anchor. Remember Hexagram 32, duration. To stay the same, you must change. This week, choose your anchor, one core value or goal that is non-negotiable. Perhaps it is your health, or your commitment to your family, or a specific creative project. That is your duration. Now, look at your methods. If they aren't working, throw them away. Most people get this backward. They are flexible with their goals but rigid with their habits. They keep doing the same failed routine but change their dream every 6 months. Flip it. Be a tyrant about your goal, but be a scientist about your methods. If the wind of the market or the thunder of a crisis hits you, shift your sails. Do not change your destination. Change your tack. What is the probability that you will actually do these 3 things? Statistics say 5%. Most viewers will nod, feel a brief sense of wisdom, and then return to the swamp of their distractions. The I Ching calls this the inferior man. The superior man, the Junzi, is the one who acts. Which one are you? Your choice is the only hexagram that matters. We began with Leibniz. He looked at the I Ching and saw the future of computing. He saw that the universe speaks in a language of polarity. But Leibniz also realized something deeper. He realized that if you have a system of ones and zeros, you can represent anything. You can represent music. You can represent art. You can represent the movement of the stars. The I Ching is the code. Your life is the output. If you don't like what is appearing on the screen, you don't fight the screen. You change the code. You are not a victim of change. You are change. You are the thunder. You are the wind. You are the dragon in the depths. The world will try to tell you that you are a small, insignificant cog in a massive machine. The ancients knew better. They knew that a single person, acting in alignment with the Tao, the Great Way, can move mountains. But you must stop pushing the mountain. You must learn to walk the path that leads over it. Duration is not about stopping time. It is about becoming the master of it. If you wish to understand the deeper mathematics of your own fate, the link to our playbook on the I Ching is below. In our next episode, we will explore the dark side of the oracle. What happens when the cycles of change turn toward destruction? Do not miss it. The season is already shifting. The dragon does not stay hidden forever. See that you are ready when it is time to fly.